joining me. You can see where I am. I'm at Eynsford station in Kent. That is looking towards London, and that way is looking towards Sevenoaks. I haven't actually come here today to look at trains. What we're going to do, we're going to go and have a look at Eynsford Castle. I've heard there is a castle here. I've passed through this station on the train, I wouldn't say many times, but from time to time. I've often thought one day I should get out here and go and visit the castle, so that's what I've come here to do. But it is the first time I've ever been to this station. It's that nice rural country station. I'm going to go and find the castle now. So walk from the railway station to the castle. We're just coming to the village centre. Although the video is mainly about the castle, there's a couple of things I thought would be a real shame not to show you. We've got this church here, parts of it date back to the Norman times, and there's an interesting dispute here in this church between Henry II and Thomas à Becket. I understand that the Archbishop, Thomas à Becket was the Archbishop, the one who was famously or infamously murdered in Canterbury Cathedral. He appointed a new vicar to the church, which William de Eynsford, whose castle we're going to see, wasn't very happy about. We'll talk more about William de Eynsford when we get to the castle. Let's have a look in this really pleasant church. It's always nice when the church is open. You can just walk in and have a look. There's always that sense of peace whenever you go into a church. I don't go to churches every Sunday, but whenever I'm walking through somewhere like this, I will always go to church. So it's like being in churches. Look at this. Interestingly, it doesn't have any stained glass windows. I can see, well, it's a little bit of stained glass. So it's a very light and bright church, which is quite unusual. Because obviously some churches, stained glass windows are interesting to see, but they do make the church dark. And then looking back from the chancel down the nave. So although I originally intended this to be a video about the castle, it's turning into a bit of a classic villages of England video, which is good. It's always nice to have a nice village where there's lots to see. There's something across the road I want to show you. Again, it's not part of the castle, but it seems worth... Oh, how do I get out? I'll pull the door towards me. It seems it would be a shame not to show you, so I'll show that to you, and then we'll continue on to the castle. We're going to walk out here now through the Lich Gate, and we're going to cross the road. So just to give you context of where we are, I've got, although it says Eynsford Castle that way, but I'm actually going to go that way. The railway station is that way. Let's just cross the road. There's a tea room there. I always like to go in a tea room, but they're never open, it seems. It doesn't look like that one is. To be fair, it is a bit later on in the day, and it's a weekday. There's the church behind me with St George's flag flying, and look at this. We have a Ford. Isn't it nice to see a Ford? It's just something nice about Fords and the novelty side of things. I'm not going to walk through it, but just look at that. What a really nice village this is. I'm just going to let you see this view so I thought a car was going to drive through it and I was going to get splashed. I'm going to let you see this view for a few seconds, and then I'm going to go and find the rest of the village and the castle. Now just walking through Eynsford village centre on my way from the railway station. It seems like a pleasant place. A few pubs, maybe have a drink in one of these later. Even a hotel. Now the castle is a little bit further along here. I'm nearly there. It's about a 15-minute walk from the railway station if you're thinking of coming by train. Alternatively, you could come by bus. Right, let's go and find this castle. So the bus stop is just there. I'm walking down this little driveway to the castle. So the castle we're going to see, Eynsford Castle, was built on the site of an earlier Saxon building. It was built by somebody called William de Eynsford I. He built the castle between 1085 and 1087, and then in the late 11th century, early 12th century, he strengthened the curtain walls, made them much taller, which is what we shall soon see. And what's very unusual about this castle is it didn't have a keep as such. It was just quite small, and it effectively was the castle itself, was the keep. So that's quite an interesting thing. As we come in here beneath these really nice lime trees, we can just see the castle ahead of us. So what we're going to do, we're going to walk over where I expect there was once a drawbridge. We're going to walk over that and into the castle to have a look around the ruins. That's how the castle once looked, and that's the same view today. The moat seems to have gone, but the lime trees have grown up. As I mentioned, an interesting thing about this castle is it doesn't have a keep as such. We're going to have a look around the ruins. But I'm also quite interested in the castle's demise, which began in 1261, when the castle was divided by a judge between the Kirkby families and the Caroli families, name on screen now. It grew up until 1312, when Nicholas de Caroli wasn't very happy that the Kirkbys had got the castle. So what he did was he broke in with his supporters. They broke into the castle and they vandalised it, and then the castle was soon abandoned. So this is the view of the castle. This is where there had probably been a drawbridge once. You can see the big curtain walls ahead of us. As you get close, you can sort of see how big they actually are. They don't when you look at pictures, you think, oh, it's just a small ruined castle. It's actually when you get inside it, you realise they're pretty big. So this is where the moat would have been, and then as we get to here, we're coming in through where, yeah, you'd have come in. There wasn't a gatehouse as such, or certainly not a separate one. We can have another past and present look here. It says inside the castle. So this is the inner courtyard there, and that's the same view today. So it's all a ruin. So all of these big curtain walls, they all date back to the 11th century. But what you see in there, the Great Hall and everything, which we're going to go and have a look inside, that is all 12th century. So let's walk around the castle and see what we can find. So we'll start by walking around the castle this way, get an idea of the size of these curtain walls. You can see a few windows. Looks like there's a little bit of fallen masonry, so they've put some fences, so we can't in all cases go right up to the edge of the castle. And looking up there, I can see, looks like they perhaps supported beams of a floor. They're probably lean-to buildings, because then after the castle been vandalised and abandoned, it became used basically as kennels for hunting dogs for the nearby Lullingstone Castle, which is also in the village, and that's perhaps somewhere. That's probably a video for another day. Let's go down here. It says the hall. So as I said, this is the hall here. I think probably the actual grand part of the hall would have been up there. These are like the lower rooms underneath the hall. There's a little plan here. So it says there's the hall undercroft behind that wall. This is the solar undercroft. So let's go down and have a look. I always enjoy rooms, especially, you can go down sort of steps like this. It just makes it exciting. So you can see there's a fireplace there, and then some steps up this side. Let's have a look. You can see how the thing is with flint. It's a good example here. Flint is great for building. It's not very good for corners. So on the corners, they use bricks. And the other day, I saw someone had just built this really nice new flint wall, but they put flint corners. I was thinking that's going to crumble in a few years' time. You don't use flint for corners, but it is good structurally. So we've got these steps here, giving us views over the ruins. Let's see what we can see. It takes us down. So we're now behind the hall as such, and we can see these curtain walls, which I mentioned were extended higher up. Down there is where the moat was, so we'll go down there afterwards. So that's quite interesting. I'm not sure if, like I say, parts of the castle were fenced off because of falling masonry. Whether I'm not supposed to be in here. Problem is, people move the barriers, so it's not always possible to know where you're supposed to be and not meant to be. I have a feeling I wasn't actually meant to be in there, so sorry, English Heritage. But anyway, I just walked through there. So let's have a look down here, see if we can go into the lower parts of the castle. And what I'm going to do, I don't normally do this, I like to normally use the actual doors, but because there was a few people over there, I didn't want to get them in the video, so I just, it was like a ghost, I just went through the wall. I try not to walk on the walls and climb on them, I try to use the actual doors. So this is the hall undercroft here. So thinking about it, perhaps this area here, the whole of above there, that was the upper part of the castle. So like I say, the Great Hall would have been above me. We'll go out here. What I want to do, I want to go out the back of the castle, and then when we get out there, we can have a look and get another chance to appreciate how grand and tall these curtain walls are. And as we cross, as I say, this area is the courtyard. It looks like that was a well down there. I can see it's not that deep. Some wells, yeah, you look at them, they just go down and down and down. I don't think that one does. What was this? This room here, this was the kitchen, it says, look. So it was the kitchen up until the castle was abandoned. There's some pictures there how the castle looked when it was in its abandoned state, and now it's been restored, as you can see. So you can see the grandness of the curtain wall. This was probably, again, part of the moat here, and up here there's a little bit of a hump on the grass, and here is the river Down, I think it's called. This is the railway, basically follows the Down Valley, and I noticed there is a walk you can do, the Down Valley path, so perhaps one day we could do that. From here we get quite a good view. You can see the height of the curtain walls. What I'm going to do, I'm going to circumnavigate the castle around here, so we'll follow the bank of the river, and we'll go right around the castle back to where we started. That way we get a good idea of the size of the castle. Someone's been in here, mowed the grass this morning. You can see the grass is all freshly mown, and there's the castle behind me, just there. Looking. It's interesting, they've obviously had to fill in a section there with concrete, supposed to keep it up, the courtyard up. Just walking through this, underneath this tree, and when we get to here, I'm leaving sort of the most impressive elevation of the castle towards the end of the video. Look at this, you can see now, I say it doesn't look so big from photos, but it is all quite tall. It's all towering above me. I'm in what would have been the deepest part of the moat once. It's all quite dry now, but like I say, I'm fairly sure the moat would have been fed from the river. So a moment ago I was up there in that window. If you want to come visit the castle, it is free to visit, hence why you may have noticed there were various other people, like what appear to be local families, just sort of running around. So it's quite nice. It can be sort of enjoyed by anyone. It's free to visit anytime. They do lock the gate though. I came in, I've noticed, or it's what I get the impression. So it's not one of those ones where you can just come in here at night. Like some of these castles, you can just sort of come in any time. This one you can't. So if you are visiting, you need to come during the opening hours. From up here we get a really quite a good view of the castle. You can see how big it is, and it's quite pleasing to look at. Look at how the flints have been lined almost in like a herringbone. It's not herringbone brickwork, it's not bricks, but a bit like herringbone brickwork, that kind of design. So it's very impressive. I think it's great. I always, I just like to go and visit castles. It's always one of my castles, ruined abbeys. They're great fun to go and explore. Nice reason for a train journey. Get on the train, travel somewhere I haven't been. I'm going to go for a bit of a walk around the area. I'm not going to put it in the video. I'm going to go and walk down to Lullingstone Castle now, just to see what's there. Maybe a video for another day. Interestingly, look, there's still a bit of moat left, but it's still a little bit of water in that bit. And then you can see part of a bit more of the castle where, like I say, I bet there was a drawbridge. This would have been an imposing entrance. You'd have like a little archway, as we saw on that picture at the beginning. I quite like this. This has to be a fairly modern bridge, but it's a nice wooden bridge, all wooden, no metal in it apart from the mesh on the fence. The whole structure of the bridge is wooden. What we're going to do now is we're going to go underneath it, and then, and I just tripped. We're going to go underneath it as we are now, and then we'll be round at the front. So this is the car park. So if you are coming here by car, this is where you're most likely going to park, and there in front of us, that's the castle. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks very much for watching. Please do feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe from Eynsford Castle.